It's Thursday, August 22. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. As Jamaica and the region comes to grips with the realities of climate change, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the National Works Agency have been given strict instructions to build infrastructure that can last 100 years to deal with weather events which are taking place more frequently. Here are the details. Prime Minister Holness was speaking Wednesday at the official opening ceremony of the rehabilitated George River Bridge, located in the community of Violet Banks above Gordon Town, East Rural St. Andrew. He said the country's infrastructure must be able to withstand the vagaries of climate change.
NWA, the NWC have all been given their directives that whatever infrastructure that we build, they must be able to withstand a 100-year event. Meaning a weather event of such great intensity that it only happens once in 100 years. The reason for that is that we are seeing such events happening now with greater frequency. Some of them you are seeing them happening every 10 years, which means that your infrastructure has to be built in such a way that you don't have to rebuild it every 10 years. So you understand the importance of building these kinds of infrastructure so that they can withstand these significant and oftentimes destructive weather events.
According to Prime Minister Holness, the new George River Bridge provides an opening for industrial and economic benefits to East Rural St. Andrew. While giving the main address at the opening ceremony, Prime Minister Holness said with the bridge expansion, redevelopment of Port Royal, and infrastructural work being done in East Rural St. Andrew, residents will have greater access and economic activities will increase in the area.
In improving the road conditions of Gov't Town, we have literally given new life to an economy which existed before with great potential, but which I have observed for myself is now expanding greatly. Believe it or not, the tourism industry here is growing. People are coming up here now, heading up farther into the mountains. Some are bird watching, some come for good coffee, some just come for the sightseeing, and others come for the salubrious climate because it is very cool.
The Prime Minister added that the widening of the bridge is significant as it will give new life to activities in the area, such as agriculture and construction, among others. The Prime Minister says that the investment in the rehabilitated George River Bridge is symbolic as it signals another action step by the government to redevelop the country. As he says, there are other places that are in need of infrastructural development.
This government is not ignoring your plight and your demands, but we are doing what is necessary to be able to address it speedily and in a systematic way. We might not be able to do it today or tomorrow, but I'm giving you my commitment that we are going to do your bridge and in short order.
Member of Parliament for the area and wife of the Prime Minister, Juliet Holness, was also on hand for the opening. All corporate area mobile food vendors are being invited for a stakeholder meeting at the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, downtown Kingston. The meeting is set for 1 p.m. on Friday. According to KSAMC, Commercial Services Committee Chairman, Councillor Dwayne Smith, the meeting will be critical to the operations of both the municipality and vendors going forward. Suppliers, street food vendors, owners and operators of carts and food trucks will get information related to the acquisition of necessary permits. The Banana Board is ramping up its public relations and awareness activities to alert farmers and other stakeholders on the effects of soil-borne pathogen affecting crops. In a statement, the board says at the moment what it needs most is funding to conduct simulation exercises in order to be fully and practically prepared for the management of the disease in the event that the TR4 reaches Jamaica's shores. With TR4 having reached Colombia, the Banana Board's concern is the immediate threat of the plant disease spreading from South America to the island. General Manager Janet Coney says this can happen via various means, including from people's clothing and even construction equipment. She stressed that the TR4 must be seen as an important issue, as 98% of Jamaicans consume bananas and about 64,000 farmers grow bananas for income. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, J.C. Hutchinson, has indicated that help is on the way for 47 farmers whose farms were recently devastated by fire in the community of Flaggerman, St. Elizabeth. An assessment conducted by the Rural Agricultural Development Authority is estimating losses at $45 million. Speaking following a tour of the affected areas this week, Mr. Hutchinson said the government is moving to ensure that farmers rebound as quickly as possible in an effort to prevent an increase in prices for produce. In light of the extensive fire which destroyed farms on Friday, August 16, Minister Hutchinson, along with Minister of State in the ministry, Floyd Green, toured farm areas of Flaggerman to get a first-hand view of the damage. Farmers lost various crops as well as equipment such as drip hoses and water storage tanks. For his part, Mr. Green noted that the agricultural sector suffered significant losses as a result of the fire. He informed that the government is moving speedily to craft a program of intervention. Minister with responsibility for the education portfolio, Samuda, says immediate action is needed to address weak performances in mathematics, as nearly half of the students who sat the subject in this year's Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC examinations ended up failing the subject. Samuda says the only passes of note in CSEC and CAPE, that's the Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examination Mathematics, came from the nation's top-rated schools. He's quoted saying 91 of 171 schools fall into the category of students who sat the exam in those schools that fail, but we didn't hear anything about those, end quote. The minister's comments came against the backdrop of a release from the Ministry of Education last Wednesday that indicated that CSEC recorded percentage passes of 54.6 in mathematics. This is a 3.2 percentage point decrease compared to last year. He was speaking at a conference in St. James held under the theme Empowering Educators, Retooling, Innovating and Networking for Sustainable Development. The St. James Health Department has bolstered its mosquito control program by recruiting additional personnel to carry out activities across that parish. Chief Public Health Inspector for St. James, Lennox Wallace, says that 64 aides have been employed to assist the core team of 11 vector control officers. This, he pointed out, now enables the department to execute programmed activities more widely and quickly across St. James, adding that they are better able to effectively disrupt the cycle of the mosquitoes. This is a key boost to the program, the second phase of which commenced in July and runs until December. Another, Mr. Wallace informed, will be the ramping up of activities with the commencement of night operations come September. Motorists should see an increase at the pumps in the prices of gasoline and diesel effective today, August 22. That's according to the latest ex-refinery costs from Pathogens. 87 and 90 octane gasoline will be sold for $126.57 and $129.41 per liter, respectively, up by 38 cents each. Automotive diesel fuel will be sold for $130.83 per liter, following an increase of $1.39, while ultra-low sulfur diesel is up by $1.56 and will be sold for $135.14 per liter. Meanwhile, kerosene increased in price by $1.40 and will be sold for $109.96 per liter. Propane liquid petroleum will be sold for $37.82 per liter, down by 67 cents, and butane liquid petroleum will be sold for $39.70 per liter, after a decrease of $1.65. Marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markups to these prices. The U.S. dollar on Wednesday, August 21, ended trading at Jamaican $135.98, down by 21 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily foreign exchange trading summary. The Canadian dollar ended trading at Jamaican $102.98, down from $103.10, while the British pound sterling ended trading at Jamaican $165.13, down from $165.21. Most of the human body is made up of water. Dehydration happens when your body doesn't have as much water as it needs. Without enough, your body can't function properly. As the saying goes, water is life. You should learn more about dehydration, its symptoms and treatment. We'll share that information and more with medical advice from general practitioner Dr. Steve Fu in this episode of Living Healthy.
Essentially, what we need to do all the time is that we need to continue to rehydrate ourselves. So that's why we continue to drink. So especially in these very hot times and in the conditions that we have, like vomiting and diarrhea, you want to continue to keep on rehydrating. However, there comes a point where when you lose too much body fluids, the body is not able to function as it normally does. The body is what we refer to as a homeostatic vehicle, so therefore it needs certain parameters in which it needs to operate in order to function normally. And when there is loss of body fluids, then this disturbs the environment and a lot of our organs don't function particularly well. Even so, there can be so severe dehydration that it can even cause confusion and listlessness, and the person is just totally out of it. So therefore, our recommendation is that you can have two types of therapy. The first one, essentially, is that you rehydrate orally. So ideally, you want to take in such fluids like Lucozade, Gatorade, or even Highlight. And in the younger age groups, you probably want to move towards giving them some oral rehydration salts. These oral rehydration salts, they're readily available at the pharmacy, and you can just mix that up, keep it in the refrigerator, and just continue to feed the infants during the course of the day. However, if your symptoms persist, there's very high fever, you continue to be confused, listless, weak, dizzy and all of that, and there's persistent vomiting and diarrhea, just not able to keep down anything, then you become a candidate for IV fluid rehydration. IV fluid is what we refer to as intravenous fluid, where we just find a vein in your hand most times, and we introduce a little cannula or a little tube, a little plastic tube, and we hook you up to something that we commonly refer to as drip. And we give you a few bags of drip, how much you get will depend on how dehydrated you are. And after giving you some drip, then you should start feeling a whole lot better, right? And it also depends on the conditions that you're having as well. I mean, if you have an infection, you might be able to get antibiotics and those things through the drip. But definitely you want to correct the dehydration as we try and treat whatever illness you have, so that we will make you much better.
In regional news, a crisis. That is how Trinidad and Tobago's Commissioner of Prisons, Gerard Wilson, is describing the challenges facing prison officers in that country. There is increased alert after recent public threats against the lives of officers and their families. Wilson was speaking to TV6 News.
I know that the prison service, I am totally fed up of it. I am looking at the prison service now as the new punching bag, in the sense that as soon as inmates are uncomfortable about anything, then they target the prison service. In fact, it was said by one inmate that when things happen, whether it's a director from the police or whether we get information from the intelligence community, the prison officers will be targeted.
On Sunday, the home of a prison officer was shot at. Wilson said prison officers are justifiably afraid and they are being given little to no protection.
We have the same type of behavior from outside entering the prison, so that there are some very influential persons who come into the prison and still try to manipulate and you know, send threats to officers. And to be honest with you, I feel at this time that officers are more afraid of not complying to those influential inmates than doing before.
In the meantime, Trinidad's government is being challenged to find a different approach in fighting crime. The call comes from opposition Member of Parliament Rodney Charles. We get more from CNC3's Jesse Ramdio.
The opposition's Shadow Minister for National Security is giving Police Commissioner Gary Griffith high marks for his achievements after 1 year in office. But he is concerned that if other parts of the justice system are not sorted out, those gains would be for naught. Charles argues that the time has come for the overall crime-fighting machinery to work according to serious deliverables for which each element can be held accountable.
Set measurable targets. You bring all the stakeholders together and say, can we achieve that measurable statistic, or is it unrealistic? And if they agree that we could achieve it, the question is, the second phase is, tell us what resources you need. And the challenge of our government at the time would be to get those resources to the police, TTPS, and other institutions that have an impact on the crime situation.
I'm glad that you mentioned...
once they get the resources that they have asked for, and they commit to achieve those targets, the third part of the process is to hold them accountable.
Zinaprima MP is calling for a proper management system to guide the crime reduction strategy and maintains the current strategy being used by the Rowley administration to battle crime is all wrong. He argues the focus on enacting new legislation that is not informed or advised by data is having the effect of increasing the overall prison population, to whom major rehabilitation efforts should be targeted. But this is not happening as it should. He also emphasizes the importance of social interventions for at-risk inner-city males.
I'm blaming our entire society.
Yeah.
Our society, we have failed the at-risk youth. So if for whatever reason a person's father is in prison and his mother is on coke, what systems are in place to identify this fellow and get the resources of the state to him so that he could be rehabilitated?
Guyana's opposition leader, Brat Jagdeo, has been accused of being a political bully. The accusation comes from executive member of the Working People's Alliance, David Himes. The details in this news source Guyana report.
Member of the Working People's Alliance, Dr. David Hines, has accused the presidential candidate of the People's Progressive Party, Irfan Ali, of hiding behind the party's General Secretary, Mara Jagdeo, who he says is Mr. Ali's political godfather. At a recent press conference, Dr. Hines said that while the opposition leader has been acting as a bully with his weekly press conferences and public statements, the man who wants to be the next president has been acting more like a ghost.
We can't focus on a ghost too much. You know, Mr. Irfan Ali is a ghost. We don't see him. He's there, you're right with what you say. But the man who is there in the front, who is Mr. Jagdeo's front man, has to be the person that we respond to, because that's what our supporters are telling us in the community. They're saying they wake up every morning and they see this man's face, they hear this man's voice, and they're not hearing our voice.
Dr. Hines made it clear that when Ali comes forward, the focus will shift to him. But for now, there needs to be more focus on Mr. Jagdeo, and people ought to be reminded of his time in office.
Yes, we understand that ultimately Mr. Irfan Ali is going to be the presidential candidate, and we should focus on him. But what are we going to focus on? Are we going to focus on the fact that he has problems with his qualifications and his thing? Are we going to focus on he's not up front, he's not saying anything, he's not advancing any policy, he's there behind the scenes, and so when he comes forward, we will certainly focus on him. But for now, we will focus on his political godfather.
The Working People's Alliance is a junior partner in the coalition government. Dr. Hines said the party wants to have a bigger voice in the new government and has decided to stick with the coalition for the next election.
Staying in Guyana, the government has announced that it is training educators to teach English to the children of Venezuelan migrants. Guyana has seen an influx of Venezuelans owing to the political and social crisis gripping that country.
The 800 migrant children registered in schools in Guyana, the Ministry of Education, in collaboration with the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, has been joining forces to develop educational interventions to improve learning and communication skills of Venezuelan refugee children. 17 teachers from Region 1 and 2 from the city will begin training later this week as part of the initiative that is expected to benefit 8 communities in Region 1. UNHCR representative on the multi-stakeholder committee, Ms. Cicely Guerrero, made this announcement Monday at a stakeholder meeting which was held at the Department of Citizenship. The committee is tasked with monitoring the arrival of Venezuelan migrants in Guyana. The training, which is being conducted in Mabaruma Region 1, will last until the end of August. The 2 Georgetown-based teachers, she said, will be trained as trainers. These teachers will be tasked with training their colleagues when and wherever the need arises. Guyana has been one of the countries in the region to open its doors to Venezuelan migrants fleeing their homeland, which has been afflicted by political turmoil over the last few years. Given the positive impacts made in Burima-Waini through the pilot project, the 2 entities are now looking to roll out the project in Kuyuni-Mazruni. It will target 3 communities in its initial phase.
In sports, badminton players Gareth Henry, Samuel Wickets and Catherine Winter, who all competed in Lima along with Alana Bailey, are looking to increase their chances of qualifying for the 2020 Olympic Games when they compete in the main draw of the Caribbean Regional Badminton Confederation International Open in Barbados, continuing Thursday through to Sunday, August 25. And we are in the creases with cricket as West Indies will attempt to break a 17-year winless streak against India in the clash with the tourists in the opening test in Antigua on Thursday. Speaking at the recent West Indies Players Association Awards, captain of the regional side, Jason Holder, stressed the importance of the team playing as a collective.
I think we just want to be consistent. We've had a really good start to the year, obviously, and I think this group has been closer knit for the last 2.5 years. There've been 1 or 2 players dropping out and 1 or 2 players coming in, but I think the nucleus of the squad has been the same, and I think that speaks well for the performance of the team. And I just think for us, we just got to take it stage by stage. I try not to get too far ahead and just nail in on the process. I always speak about the process in the group, and we've been doing a lot of talking as a group, and I'm just trying to put together our heads and find solutions to many problems which we face. I think that's the mantra for most teams per se. Just look for solutions and look for solutions not only as individuals, but as a group.
In the weather report, at 5 a.m. Thursday morning, the center of the tropical storm depression Chantal was located near latitude 39.1 degrees north, longitude 45.7 degrees west. Chantal is moving toward the east near 28 kilometers per hour. Chantal is forecast to slow down and turn southward through the weekend. Maximum sustained winds are near 55 kilometers per hour with higher gusts. Weakening is expected and Chantal is forecast to degenerate into a remnant low by Friday. Tropical storm Chantal is not a threat to Jamaica. The Meteorological Service will continue to monitor this system. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks so much for watching.